Today, I want to talk about 4 trainer tips that you can put into play every time you go to the gym and you do a strength training workout. So these are specifically for people that are heading to the gym, lifting weights with the goal of gaining strength or building muscle, which you should be doing regardless of what your end goal is. So these are tips that as a trainer, I kind of just have collected along the way, training people in person, training people online, and then after training people online, connecting again, training in person, I kind of get a sense for the things that people just, it's not quite as intuitive as following a plan, right? Like you can have the plan in front of you, but these tips are, my goal with these tips is to give you something that can level up every single workout. And if you can level up every single workout that you do, you're gonna level up the results that you get as a consequence, right? So here we go, let's dive in. Okay, first up, let's talk about effort. Now, this is one that it's kind of the Julia effort, right? But I find that unless you have worked with a coach before, or unless you have been on a sports team, maybe played a sport that required some amount of purposeful, functional strength training, right? It's hard mentally and physically to really understand what it feels like to train at a max effort, right? Working out is difficult. It's called work, right? It should push you into a place of discomfort. And for a lot of people, if they're not used to that, it's hard to do, right? So it's hard physically, obviously, but it's also hard mentally. We don't quite trust ourselves at that end of the spectrum. So in a program, you are going to see this as maybe RPE. So on a scale of 1 to 10, your coach is saying train at an RPE of 8 out of 10, right? Or you might see this as RIR, which stands for reps in reserve, which is essentially, if you have an RIR of 1, there's 1 rep left in the tank. And I love using that as an example here because most people have a hard time figuring out how far they can go and have 1 rep left in the tank, right? Like this is the kind of effort that stimulates growth, right? This is the kind of effort that we need to use to challenge the muscles to be able to do more, right? But we're not used to using that kind of effort. It's not something that we do in everyday life, right? When you are carrying the laundry up the stairs, that is not a 10 out of 10 RPE, right? Most of the time what happens is people can do this with cardio. Makes a little bit more sense. You're breathing really heavily. You feel like you're going to throw up, like that kind of deal, right? But how do you do this when you are strength training, right? And I would say ideally you do this with a coach or a friend, maybe a spotter, someone who knows what they're doing, right? These are the reps that they come at the end of a set where you probably are pausing before each rep. You probably are thinking, okay, I'm done. And then you push for 1 more. You might need a little help, right? Like this is where the grunting and the weird faces come in. That's 1 rep left in the tank, okay? Most people stop far before that, right? So best example I can think of is working with a client, telling them to do their reps until they think they're done, okay? And you can do this, right? Do your reps until you think you're done and then pause. Take a deep breath, realign yourself, and do another rep, and do it again, and do it again, right? You will find that you can pump out those last reps, and you'll have that aha moment of like, oh yeah, okay, that's what she means, okay? So that's trainer tip number 1 is you have to be paying attention to your effort, and you have to be pushing yourself to the extreme, okay? Of course, that's not to say that every single rep of every single workout is an RIR of 1, right? Or an RPE of 10. But that is to say that if you are just going to the gym and going through the motions, getting it done, right? That's not enough. You got to put in that work. That's what's going to get you the results that you want. Next trainer tip. If you are following a workout program that calls for you to do 8 to 12 reps of any given exercise, and you pick up a weight and you bang out 25 reps, you are lifting a weight that is far too light for the adaptation that you want. So each of the rep ranges that you see, is very specifically pinpointing a physiological adaptation. So 8 to 12 is hypertrophy, that's build muscle time, right? Anything lower than that really kind of pushes into max strength. Anything higher than that is muscular endurance. But if you are trying to build a fit looking body, right? So that means losing body fat, building lean muscle, you're probably going to be somewhere in the like 6 to 15 range. We're going to call it 8 to 12, right? So here's what happens. If you pick up a weight, your trainer says, let's squat for 8 to 12 reps, right? And you pick up a weight and you, again, bang out 25 reps. A lot of those reps are junk reps. They're not doing anything. If you can do 25 reps of something, that's like walking around your house, walking up the stairs, right? Like you're not challenging your body to adapt in any way. It can already do this weight, obviously, right? So if we want to trigger muscle growth, we have to give your body the catalyst for that, right? Like we have to say, this is what we're doing, do more, right? So here's how you do this. If the rep range is 8 to 12, you are gonna choose a weight that you can hit 8 at. But by the time you get to 12, you're fatigued, right? So this is gonna take a little bit of experimentation. My best piece of advice here is to track every workout and then flip back and look at that data. What did I do the last time I squatted? Oh, there it is. I hit 12 with 100 pounds every single set. That's where you're going to start this time. And your goal is to increase that weight. Okay. So you want to fall somewhere in that rep range. It is not arbitrary. It is there. If you have a good trainer, it is there for a reason. So if you are someone who just listened to that and you're like, that's me, right? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the gym next time and pick up the weight that you have been doing 20 to 25 reps with and increase that weight by 55 to 75%. Okay, so you're gonna make a pretty big jump here and then aim for 8. And if you can get to 8, awesome. You can get to 9, awesome. 10, 11, 12, cool, whatever. This is just a starting point, right? But you're gonna have to make a big jump if you are doing 25 reps, okay? If you get to 8 and that's as far as you can go, you are gonna use that weight for as long as it takes until you can do 9 reps, and then 10, and then 11, and then 12. And then once you can use that weight and you hit 12 reps for your set, you increase the weight again and you knock that goal back down to 8 reps. And you just repeat the process, okay? Which leads me to my third trainer tip. And that is, if you heard that last tip and you got nervous because you thought, oh my God, I don't wanna lift heavier because I don't want to get bulky, we have to have a serious conversation about how the body works. It takes a lot of work and more so, a lot of fuel, a lot of surplus calories to build muscle. There's a reason that people try to build muscle forever, right? Because it's really hard. You going into the gym and lifting heavier weights, my friend, is not gonna bulk you up, okay? It's just not gonna happen, especially if you are a female. It is just a difficult task, okay? I have been working on building muscle for the last 10 years of my life, and let me tell you, it's tough to do. So that's trainer tip number 3, is that if in your head you still think that if I lift heavy, I'm gonna get bulky, please just forget that for 3 months. Just forget about it and try what I'm talking about in increasing the weight that you're lifting, and you will prove to yourself that you're not gonna get bulky, you're gonna get fit. All right, trainer tip number 4, and this is a really big one because I think this one causes a lot of fear in people to try new exercises or to do an exercise incorrectly. While yes, there are some universal technique and form tips about certain exercises like a squat, like a lunge, like a deadlift, they are unique to the person, right? So somebody who is long-limbed is going to look different doing a squat or a deadlift or a lunge than someone who, like me, has shorter limbs, right? My legs aren't quite as long. So when I drop into a squat, it's gonna look different than somebody else who's dropping into a squat who maybe is taller or shorter, right? Or whose hips are different than mine. We are all built entirely different, right? So when you read a hard fact, or I shouldn't even call it that. When you read something about how to do a squat, right? Like, we have to put something on paper to guide you. Just like anything, you can't write in gray, right? We write in black ink on white paper. And so we have to say something about how to do an exercise. But if you are hypermobile, if you have super strong joints, if you've been doing this for a while, your knees might go past your toes a little bit when you squat, right? And that's perfectly okay. If that's comfortable for you and you can get out of that and you have control there, awesome, right? But that's not true for everybody. There are some people out there who will be much better at doing a sumo deadlift than a regular deadlift. They'll get a lot more out of doing a sumo deadlift than they will out of a regular deadlift, simply because it's the way their body's made, right? So put it this way. I was working out with one of my best friends the other day, and we were standing next to each other looking in the mirror. And our knees to ankles, exactly the same, right? From our knees to our hips, not even close. Her hips were like up here on me, right? So we could be doing the exact same exercise and it's gonna look so different for both of us, simply because her femurs are much longer than mine, right? So it might be easy for me to drop my butt below my knees and get it deep into that squat, and I can do that. My body's made to do that, right? It might not be so easy for her. It doesn't mean she's doing it wrong. It just means she's doing it according to what her body is made to be able to do, right? And it's just truly about sort of how joints are made, how long bones are, how flexible and mobile you are. There's so many pieces of the puzzle, but I guess my point here is that ask some questions, do some research. If you have questions about an exercise that you're doing, dive deep into Google, right? Don't stop at the top 5 hits that you get back. Like, dive deep, find some really good trainers who are putting videos out about like how to do a squat, how to do a row, how to do a pull-up, and just invest some time in educating yourself. And the more that you know and the more that you practice these skills, the less scared you will be of doing them or lifting heavier weight with them. So I think the real kicker here with these tips is that there's a learning curve, right? And if you're just getting into strength training, or maybe you've been doing it for a little while and you're kind of doubling down on your efforts, or maybe you have been doing this for a long time and you've doubled down on your efforts and you're not getting the results that you expected, I think if you go back and you understand these tips, really starting with number 1 is really key. Is like, what kind of effort are you putting into this in every single set? Are you really getting close to failure? Are you training hard enough to get results? If you put these into play, it's gonna level up every workout. And if you level up every workout, you level up your physique.